Merry Christmas to all the Alabama fans, as Christmas has come about 10 months early this year. I think most will agree with me on this. And we're talking about Ryan Grubb officially being confirmed as the new offensive coordinator at Alabama. Uh, Alabama fans wanted and Alabama fans got. They did not, including myself, want Nick Sheridan to come back into the offensive coordinator role, calling plays in year two under Kalen DeBoer. And man, oh man, is it not going to happen? A key piece of this to remember, though, is Nick Sheridan will be staying on the staff. At to which role, I don't know. Jamarcus Shepard will also be staying on as the wide receivers coach. And Nick Sheridan previously was the tight ends coach, I do believe. Whether or not he's going to go back to that role or to what capacity he'll stay on in Alabama, I have no clue. I do think it's important, though, that he does stay on the role, stay on on the staff at Alabama, because he's been a key piece in a lot of our recruiting. And he's worked into the system already at Indiana before coming over to Tuscaloosa as well, including with Michael Penix, and a lot of the success he had there as well. But we're going to break this. We're going to unpack this one by one. Mainly here talking about Ryan Grubb, not so much Nick Sheridan. So let's go ahead and start off with the most obvious stuff, right? Ryan Grubb has been working with Kalen DeBoer ever since Sioux Falls, except for the 1 year he left last year to Seattle to be their offense coordinator for one season and then getting fired. And then Kalen DeBoer hiring his old friend back and then coming back to Tuscaloosa. As far as I'm aware, I have not seen a contract or what it looks like, how long or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be the neighborhood of a couple $1 million, in my opinion. Ryan Grubb is going to be very essential to this offensive staff. Play calling, it looks like he will possibly be doing. It would not be a huge surprise if Kalen DeBoer calls plays, which I do believe he did at Washington as well, along with Ryan Grubb. So that would be an interesting thing to see. And this is going to change a lot more than I think us Alabama fans realize. And I'm talking specifically personnel wise, right? Question to all the Alabama fans out there. Like, do you think Austin Mack all of a sudden becomes the favorite now to be the starter this year? There's a very strong connection between Austin Mack and Ryan Grubb. I mean, some may say he's the reason why he came to Alabama in the first place before he bolted to Seattle. Whether or not that's true, I have no idea. But I know there's some speculation there. I know they have a tight relationship. I know Ty Simpson has been there now going on 3 years, 1 year under this system, where Austin Mack has 2 years under this system. So he definitely knows the system a little bit better. You know, he is more familiar with Ryan Grubb, who most likely, in my opinion, will be calling the plays, taking over this offense. So, you know, I'm really kind of twisted on how I feel about this whole situation. Number one, Kalen DeBoer hires another friend after he, demotes / fires somebody. A lot of people say that Kalen DeBoer does get into this good old boy thing, and he tends to promote / hire his friends from the past. And we know that he was already hired at Alabama before he left to Seattle, obviously, then coming back as a safety spotter, as a safety net here. Whether or not it's going to play out in Tuscaloosa, we don't know, because we don't even know the situation at quarterback at this point. I mean, we can sit here and talk about Austin Mack being the favorite, Ty Simpson. You can't discount Keelan Russell. He's not going to come in and sit down and just let these guys take the starting spot. He's going to be a fighter, right? He's going to want the starting job as well. And hopefully Ryan Grubb he'll start the best quarterback, at least the one that looks the best in the spring practice, all that good stuff. And more importantly, it's more ready for this system going into this year. It's not going to be an easy year. You're right. We go to Athens. We got some tough games. Tennessee. We play Oklahoma again, and I get it. It's at home. It's going to be a long season, but we got a lot more to unpack from that as well. Look, this is not going to solve all of Alabama's offensive struggles. I know a lot of Alabama fans want to hear analysts. They want to hear YouTubers like me get on here and go, oh, all of our offensive struggles will go away now because Ryan Grubb showed up. Now, I will say Kalen DeBoer was put at a huge disadvantage last year when he took over this program. Most people will say he was handed the keys to a Ferrari, which was the case. But it was more like a Ferrari that was on rental, right? And the reason why I say that is because when Kalen DeBoer was handed the keys, Kalen DeBoer did not have the luxury of a transfer portal window that was open where he can bring in recruits as fast as they were leaving. Because the thing about it is when he came in, the portal window was closed. But for the Alabama players had 30 days to choose if they wanted to leave. So you had a mass exodus of Alabama players leaving, but Kalen DeBoer has no ability to go out and bring players in. So he has his hands tied behind his back when it comes to that perspective. Not only that, but he loses his offensive line coach, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Hugh something. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then on top of that, he loses Ryan Grubb, his offensive coordinator, right? And all this happens within the same week, by the way. So he really has his hands tied behind his back. He's taken over for the greatest college football head coach of all time, the amount of pressure that's put on him. And then you look at the gauntlet of an SEC schedule. Outside of Texas, you could almost say any of these were a gauntlet for an SEC schedule. I'm not trying to hate on Texas, but that it is what it is at this point. Yeah, he had a lot of pressure put on him, right? And he was put at a disadvantage right away. Well, this year you don't have that case. You now have your offensive coordinator that you initially wanted back. You definitely make adjustments to the offensive line because the offensive line last year looked horrible. The running backs were underutilized, but even when they were utilized, they didn't look really that good. In my opinion, I was almost more excited about the flashes of Richard Young than Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. And nothing against those guys. I just thought they underperformed when they did step on the field, right? And I do believe it could have been because of the play calling, which was done by Nick Sheridan. Like I said, there's so much to unpack from the situation of Ryan Grubb being hired because it affects more than just the staff. It affects the personnel, who's going to start, who he's familiar with, right? Are we going to go back? And is this offense going to look like it should have looked like initially, right, when he was going to show up? Because when Nick Sheridan was calling plays, this offense didn't really look like the Washington offense. It had some layering to it. Yes, a lot of the play calling as far as throws, the passing plays, some of them, yes, less so of the run. Because more or less, this is a vertical passing scheme, right, with a zone run, in a sense. Or you can almost say a power, because most of the time he has a big back, like a bell cow back, essentially, that will get you 2 or 3 yards on first and second down, and they throw every third down, and it makes it a manageable third down, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and they're just going to spread the ball out, throw to players in open space like Ryan Williams and these guys, Jeremy Bernard, and whoever else, maybe starting Isaiah Horton, and let them do their thing. Hopefully they can get 3 or 4 yards to get the first down. And they're just going to have a 15-play drive and nitpick you to death until you come up and try to press them, and then they're just going to throw over the top of you. That's what they did with Washington the entire time. If you go back to Fresno State, if you go back to Sioux Falls, it's all the same. It looks exactly the same. Now, it's not the exact same plays. They progress, they get more creative over time, and I think that's what was lacking in the Nick Sheridan offense last year was the lack of creativity. But, you're not really – you have no excuse now bringing Ryan Grubb in because you still have Nick Sheridan on the staff, right? So you have Ryan Grubb, you have Jamarcus Shepard, you have people that you're familiar with. The defense looked like it was progressing each and every game. I get it. Oklahoma beat us. They stomped us in the mud. I think they scored, 24 points, but most of that, in my opinion, was put on the offense. They were putting the defense in really bad situations. And there's a lot more to this. Now, there's another aspect to this. Jalen Milroe was blamed for a lot of Alabama's losses, and a lot of the success he was given to as well against Georgia. So, in a sense, the first half of the season, it was crown Milroe as the Heisman winner. The second half of the season, it was crown Milroe as possibly falling out of the first 2 or 3 rounds of the draft, right? So, obviously, we know now most likely he'll still be a first rounder. I don't know. I know the Senior Bowl week, he has not looked that good. They've talked about the lack of footwork, mechanics, just so much stuff. And that's after him working with professionals that set you up before the draft. So, in a sense, you're almost relieved as an Alabama fan when you hear that stuff being said. And it's sad to say, but you almost can go back and say, well, maybe it wasn't really Nick Sheridan, and maybe it wasn't Kalen DeBoer. Maybe it was a Jalen Milroe problem, not us losing, but the mechanics, the passing, the inconsistency, right? So there was flashes where he looked great. First half against Georgia, the dude was on fire. But look, as an average Alabama fan, watching it on TV, I'm not paying attention to footwork. I'm not paying attention to how he's winding the ball, holding the ball, the nuances of, what professionals, what I mean, all scouts are looking at and stuff like that. I just see a great first half and a tremendous fall off in the second half. And then since that Georgia game, it was a complete disaster against Vanderbilt, against almost everybody. It felt like it was a disaster at that point. Inconsistent, couldn't get the ball moving. Granted, the O-line, right? Pritchett, Womack at times. I mean, these dudes were getting smacked around. The end of the season, Caden Proctor was getting smacked around. They were getting out-muscled, all right? So, is that going to affect the offensive line? Most likely not. Ryan Grubb coming in, unless you're going to see better play calling, which I think you will. But how much it affects the offensive line, I don't know. I guess we'll see when it comes to springtime. But getting back over into this, I'm more excited about the play calling than anything because I criticize the play calling more than anything throughout this season. I said Nick Sheridan is crazy calling the plays he's calling. We're inside the 5-yard line. We're throwing the ball to just through wild concepts, no creativity at all. If you're going to throw the ball inside the 5, have some creativity, orbital motions, something going on. And it just wasn't there. And I think comment below, I think the biggest thing to take out of this hire is who's going to be our starting quarterback. Does this change the race? Does this change the personnel? You know what I mean? Will Jam Miller be the starter? Most likely, right? So, and that's only because he uses a bell cow running back. We went out and got a 230-pound back recently. We got Richard Young, right? So we have A.K. Deer. We have studs, right? All capitals in that backfield. There's no getting around that. How we're going to utilize them, you have to be excited as a running back at Alabama right now. This is the first time in probably 5 to 6 seasons you should be excited because we know one thing. Ryan Grubb uses the run to set up the pass. That we do know, right? Are we going to see a lot of throwing? Are we going to see a lot of passing? Absolutely. But the running will be there, right? We're going to give the ball to the running backs. So I think we got to be excited about that. We got to be excited about Ryan Williams getting developed beyond just streaking down the field, right? Jamarcus Shepard, in my opinion, has to do better in developing these guys. And I get it. A lot of people are saying, we just don't have the right receivers. I disagree. Right now, especially with Jeremy Bernard coming back, Ryan Williams coming back, obviously. Jeremy Bernard, thank God we don't have to hear he's 17 years old, by the way, from Ryan Williams all season again. We have so much going on for us. I think this year will be the telltale year for Kalen DeBoer, how this staff will look, how this team will look moving forward. I think we're going to learn a lot about who the quarterback's going to be, not until the spring. I think that's going to be the biggest question mark going all the way through maybe to the A-Day game and maybe after the A-Day game. Ty Simpson, a lot of people have high hopes for him. A lot of people have high hopes for Austin Mack. A lot of people have high hopes for Keelan Russell. And here's the facts. We have not seen hardly any of them play hardly any downs. So we don't know. We don't know what these guys are going to look like. We're only going to know what the university tells us when they start practicing, when they start getting through spring ball. We watch them in A-Day. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching the Roll Tide Cafe, a part of the Bama Standard Network. Other than that, I'll see you guys next video. And as always, Roll Tide.